What does it actually take to be seen as executive material? Not the version you've been told, the hustle harder, speak louder, take up more space version, but the real version, the one that gets you in the room, keeps you in it, and lets you lead it as yourself. My guest today has done exactly that. She is a CEO, she is a mom, she is direct, she is warm. She does not perform a version of leadership that isn't hers. And she has figured out something that a lot of women spend their entire careers searching for: how to be the most influential person in the room without losing yourself to get there. You're going to want to take notes on this one. Hi, it's Jamie here at the Leadership Laboratory, where ambitious women come to build confidence, skills, and community so they can lead on their terms as their authentic selves. As we kick off today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already so that you never miss an episode. All right, let's get to it. So here in the Leadership Lab, we believe that leading as your authentic self is not just a skill, it is a career accelerant. That when you combine a clear sense of who you are and how you want to lead, the ceiling starts to look a lot more like a window. And our hypothesis today is that the women who reach the executive level and stay there are not the ones who outperformed everybody else at the looking like it part, but they are the ones who figured out how to be fully themselves under pressure, direct without being dismissed, authoritative without being armored, warm without being walked over. My guest today is living proof of that, and I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Cyre Mercedes Quiñones is the CEO of Infrastructure Masons, known as iMasons, the world's leading nonprofit association of digital infrastructure executives with a global mission to advance responsible, inclusive, and sustainable digital infrastructure. She has spent more than 15 years working with Fortune 500 organizations, leading global teams, and doing it all with a leadership style that is as strategic as it is human. Speaking of humans, Cyre is the proud mom to two incredible kiddos, and I have had the great privilege and honor of having ringside seats to Cyre's ascent, proudly serving as her executive coach. Cyre, welcome to the Leadership Laboratory. I am thrilled that you are here.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm so excited to be with you. Thank you for this incredible opportunity and all of your support through the years. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Me too. This has been, it's so fun to think about the years and months that have led up to this.
Yeah.
And that we get to share it. I'm so excited. Well, Cyre, I want to start by taking our listeners back, not to where you are now, but to before you got here. Because I think a lot of women listening are, somewhere in the middle of their own journey toward the executive level or that next level, and they're wondering if they have what it takes, or more accurately, whether what they have is the right kind of thing. What was it like for you to be navigating your way up? And what did you have to figure out that nobody handed you a roadmap for?
Well, first of all, thank you for the vulnerable question. It gives us the opportunity to really keep it real right from the start. So, my background is I am from the Bronx in New York City. I come from two ex-heroin addict parents. My father was incarcerated for a period of time, and my mother struggled with addiction for most of my life. Took her many years to get out of state-provided addiction programs, which basically almost addict you onto another drug. But it was quite a journey to get there for her, and it was quite a development journey for myself. And I wouldn't change a single thing. Despite all of the challenges throughout life, I would not change a single thing. Everything that happened got me to my amazing kiddos today and to the incredible opportunity that I have as the CEO of iMasons. So I will say the biggest thing that I started to learn along the way that I absolutely did not have a roadmap for was navigating shame. Just navigating the ability to stand on the challenges that I dealt with in my youth, stand on some of the difficult decisions, or maybe even not the greatest decisions that I made as a child, as a teenager, as a young mother, as a young leader and young executive, and really find the strength and the opportunity in all of those experiences. No one absolutely gives you a roadmap for those things. So it's definitely adapting to those obstacles and really seeing the positive in what sometimes seems like the worst moments in life, and finding pride also in what you think are things you should hide or run from. So I love that question. Thanks for the chance to share.
Yeah, definitely. And I love, your grit and your tenacity and your ability to choose the positive path, that has always stood out to me as something very, very authentic to you and your brand even. And I know you talk a lot about owning your brand and not trying to replicate what's, stereotypically successful CEOs or male CEOs do. That can be easier said than done, especially in rooms where you're the only woman or one of very few. When did you decide that you're going to lead as Cyre, not as a version of what the room seemed to expect?
Absolutely. And before I even answer, I'll say, look, I still deal with managing myself and challenging myself to bring my most authentic version to the table. Like a book I'm reading right now is The Courage to Be Disliked, which is such a great book about perspective, right? And making sure that you choose that authenticity and that even positive perspective, despite things and opportunities that allow you to use the negative as a crutch for why not versus why yes, right? So it's a daily investment. It's not like there's this magic point in life and all of a sudden you can deal with everything. It's like a constant investment in that journey because what you got through today may be 10 times bigger tomorrow. So I think it's important for people to remember that there aren't any like magic moments where you got it all figured out. You sometimes need to surround yourself with people that help remind you or surround yourself with things like books and incredible podcasts like this one and many other things that enable you to keep kind of navigating the things that life throw at you, right? Because it is really real. So I definitely was that person, to go back to your question, that spent so many years trying to look like a different version of an executive that I saw outside of myself, right? More serious, less emotional, less expressive, more polished and perfect. And the funny thing is, the more I tried to be that version, the less effective I found myself really being in the real world. And I really learned something big, that it wasn't about trying to be perfect. People don't usually like to follow perfection. They really like to follow authenticity. And I had an incredible mentor at the time. I'll even just name drop. But my mentor was Russ Morrissey from Schneider Electric, and I spent a decade and a half there. And, he told me that you're great at getting your job done. You're very execution focused, but sometimes it can be hard to trust you. And how does trust get built? Trust gets built through authenticity. And when you have a difficult journey, I have a very difficult past. I've been through sexual abuse and many other things, drug addiction, like I mentioned earlier, with family members. I was very guarded. I was very ashamed of some things from my past. And so I wasn't sharing my real self. I would, be kind of business professional and share, yeah, I have 2 kiddos, but I never allowed people to get beyond skin deep with me. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you get super deep with everything at work, but you find your balance between how to bring your true authentic self, the true human side of yourself, to your business relationships as well, and how critical that is with building trust and growth. And the moment that mentor gave me that piece of advice, my perspective started to shift. And it was very uncomfortable starting to share the more human, deeper elements of myself, like how old are my kids? What activities do they do? What about my mom? And the moment that started to shift, my relationships at work changed. And people started making more investment in me, taking more chances with me because they felt like, oh, okay, we can see more of her. So we have more confidence in she's going to speak up if something is not working, right? She's going to just make us aware if we give her an opportunity and she needs help, right? Because they could just see me communicating and be a bit more transparent personally. So it indicated that maybe I would be more transparent professionally as well. So I would say that those are the areas where I decided to just stop trying to look like something else and just try to experiment. Throw spaghetti against the wall at what it meant to be me, Cyre, the leader at work and the leader in life. So, yeah.
Well, and I hear a lot of ownership in what you're saying too, because that takes courage to share what you did, and you did it from a place of authenticity, and this is me, and very interesting way to build trust on both sides. Great advice from your mentor, and I think something you also said was important is being selective with that, because I know there were times in my career that it backfired. I would share something and then it would get used against me. And there was a time that I just completely had a shield up. And it, to your point earlier, like the energy that it sucks out of you every day is a lot. So I was strategic about picking the people who basically had lives or morals or values that I wanted to emulate. And those were the ones where I could let my guard down and build that trust.
Yeah, that's a great example, right? Because that's part of the learning journey is making mistakes, right? And that's why I said throwing spaghetti against the wall. It's more than just like innovation in technology or innovation with your career and doing professional development, but it's also experimenting in that way, like experimenting with vulnerability and being willing to tell people, I'm struggling with something, either personally or professionally. And sometimes when you allow people in, whether it's a friend or a boss or a colleague, you can solve something that you didn't even realize was related to that thing because you allowed yourself to create some of that vulnerability. And yeah, sometimes you get punched in the face with things and it's just part of the journey. But it's because of those experiences that you now can help shape yourself differently and shape someone else. No one has it perfect, right? Like that's part of the story.
Yeah. Progress over perfection.
Yeah.
One of our many mottos here.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing it right now. You do such a great job of being direct with your communication. And I know a lot of women have a fear of being direct and having it land wrong, being seen as aggressive or difficult or too much. And you have a real gift for direct communication that doesn't create unhealthy friction or doesn't create that reaction that everybody wants to take back. And so, Sri, can you tell us how do you do that? What's the skill there?
Thank you so much for that. Wow. There's a big difference between direct communication and bluntness, right? Like direct communication for me is about saying difficult things. It's not about making difficult things easier to hear. And I think sometimes people really confuse directness with bluntness, right? Bluntness is more about relieving your own personal discomfort with something, while directness is about helping somebody else succeed. So I like to ask myself something in particular.
Will you say that one more time, Sri? That was really important what you just said.
Of course, like people confusing directness and bluntness.
And bluntness, yep.
So bluntness being about alleviating your own discomfort with a situation, but directness being about helping other people move through something so that they can succeed. Did that help?
Yes, yeah, because it's an important distinction, and I wanted to make sure we double clicked on that. To me, it sounds like bluntness is based on someone's insecurities or fears, and directness is based on confidence.
Absolutely. And like directness is, like I said, helping other people, but it really comes from that emotional intelligence side. And I also like to talk about curiosity intellect, right? We hear a lot about IQ and EQ, but we don't hear about CQ as much. And that's where that directness ties to, right? Directness is your ability to be curious, to kind of ask questions about what someone else could be dealing with and providing feedback in a way that, again, is intended for that person to succeed, whether it's succeed individually or whether it's to complement something that y'all are working on together. It's just the way you deliver it really does matter. And asking those clarifying questions, having that curiosity intellect to understand better and understand deeper, tying it to the previous question about vulnerability, like that's what directness is about versus bluntness, kind of driving a tractor over somebody, right? Because maybe you're frustrated. There's emotions and all real things that are part of direct conversations as well, but just making sure that you understand the difference between bluntness and directness. So one of the things I ask myself before difficult conversations or direct conversations is what I'm about to talk about with that person intended to help this person? And if that answer is yes, then I feel even more confident being incredibly direct with that person because I'm like, hey, I respect you, I value you, and I want to help you through something, especially when that person has confided in you and asked you for help, or you ask clarifying questions, which leads them to ask you for help in that direct conversation. So, I think that's an important distinction to make.
100%. And it's your external focus as opposed to internal abundance versus scarcity. I heard so many wonderful themes in that, so many effective themes. And this is all, so I'm guessing that listeners they're starting to get a feel for your executive presence. And a lot of women have been sold on the version of executive presence, which is not what you're demonstrating right now. That version being the be louder, be harder, leave the warmth at the door, just be tough. And you have a phrase, I love this, and I'll tee it up, but I want you to say it. I'm not going to steal your credit here, but it challenges that entire paradigm. What do you say? It's about bees. You tell us the phrase that you say that's about.
Gosh, I'm like, I have a bunch of different sayings.
I'll start you off. You catch more bees with.
Oh, yes. You catch more bees with honey than vinegar. Yes. Which is probably a saying that others may have heard. It's certainly not a unique saying to me, but I heard that growing up as well, right? And even my mom, as she was dealing with addiction. And when I got older, I was incredibly direct and sometimes blunt. And that was not a good thing, right? So part of my journey. So catching more bees with honey than vinegar also meant being able to understand her side of things, being warmer and softer. It doesn't mean backing off from the direct conversation that you're trying to have, right? Warmth is really a strategy. It's not inauthentic when I say strategy, so I want to make sure that's clear, but it is a strategy for connection. It's a strategy for effectiveness. And some of the best leaders that I've worked with are leaders that have made me feel safe enough to tell them the truth, not part of the truth, but the whole truth. Again, that balance with vulnerability in taking ownership when maybe you made a mistake, vulnerability in asking questions on how could I have been maybe more emotionally intelligent in a certain situation. That's true influence, right? And as a CEO now, I spend so much more time building trust than actually making decisions. And I think that's very important for people to understand that executive leadership positions are very much about the balance between IQ, EQ, and CQ. It's not because you're the best technical expert in the world. I certainly am not the biggest technical expert. I have many vulnerabilities and things that I feel insecure about as it relates to technical information. But it's about having the EQ to be able to acknowledge those areas where I don't feel so secure, and the CQ to be able to ask questions and to surround myself with a power team of people that complement me and allow me to complement them as well. So absolutely, you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. And I'll say you learn those strengths sometimes in your personal life as well. I felt oftentimes in my marriage that I had to be too soft. And I had to be too accommodating, and I had to do everything that my husband needed me to do to be supportive. And that translated into my work life as well. So I had to really find a balance between the warmth and the harder side, depending on what I was dealing with in life. And again, like you said earlier, sometimes things happen and you have to learn certain lessons, but that's part of what, we're all diamonds in the rough, right? Like, how do you see the diamond? You got to get through all the ugly parts to reveal the diamond.
Pressure creates diamonds. Yeah,
exactly. So it doesn't happen unless you go through some things that help you, find that balance of warmth when you come into the room and build the commitment that warmth allows you to build.
Yeah. And that's really fascinating that you said you spend more time building trust than you do on decisions. And I imagine when you have that strong foundation of trust, it makes the decisions that much easier.
Absolutely. And lasting as well.
And lasting as well?
Lasting, mm-hmm. Yes. Because if you have that trust, then you're not just making a decision in the room that's like a one and done and you're checking boxes, right? You're aiming to have conversations and make decisions that are lasting, that are enduring, that a team then goes back and feels also self-motivated to drive progress associated with that decision versus, oh, let me just check the box because she said I have to do this, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, because you've spent time, like you said, to build the EQ and the CQ. And listeners, friendly reminder, 2 episodes ago was all about EQ. So if you want to go back and listen to that one, it will definitely land in a different way now that you've heard what Cyre has to say here today. And what's also wild is just yesterday I was in an executive coaching call and we actually created a chart of this woman's key stakeholders and we ranked where she had the most trust and influence. We ranked each of the relationships and we made a plan about where she wanted to close the gap for the biggest impact.
So impactful. Such a great example of your incredible coaching skills as well, because that's sometimes hard to just map out and organize in your mind, right? And again, making something strategic, but also keeping it authentic in how you manage those relationships in the growth path. So yeah, love it.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about the growth on the human side, on the EQ side, is that you can put tactics to this. You can put metrics to it. It's more creative than we're used to. But when you do it, it just the clarity that you have and your ability to know the exact steps to take to build that skill or build that relationship are laid out right there. Well, Cyre, you specialize also in having difficult conversations. You don't shy away from them. And I think for a lot of women, a hard conversation, it's something spend days dreading ahead of time, half a day recovering from, sometimes leave wishing it had been handled differently. What do you know about difficult conversations that most people do not? I mean, how do you walk in, say the hard thing, and walk out with the relationship intact?
I love this question too. I think number one mistake that I've even made in my career sometimes is waiting too long to have a difficult conversation, right? That gives you the opportunity to rehearse and catastrophize and just ruminate over things that may have happened versus trying to be more direct, like we talked about earlier, direct versus blunt, and just more really in this moment in time. But don't confuse that with emotional management and how you manage that time. It's also okay for you to wait a bit to make sure that you're calm in having a difficult conversation, because having that understanding of yourself, your own boundaries, your own emotions, recognizing, something happened, I do plan to address it, but maybe not in this immediate moment. Maybe I need to give it a day or two. But giving something a day or two versus giving it a week or two or a month or two are two completely different things. And I absolutely think that having difficult conversations sooner rather than later is always in your best interest. I'll also say, don't let resentment build. When you need to have a difficult conversation, usually there's something there that happened that you're trying to address. So the longer you wait, the more opportunity you're giving yourself for resentment to build and make that difficult conversation even more uncomfortable for yourself internally, right? And just notice that I'm talking a lot about people internally. I'm not even talking about your external difficult conversation, because these conversations start with you, right? They start with your own mental, emotional, spiritual processing of whatever is happening in order for that discussion to be successful. So, you have to separate the individual you're speaking to from the problem. And it does take some time to get there. So give yourself the space emotionally, mentally, professionally, whatever, so that you can set yourself up for success. Separate the person from the problem and make sure that the person is not the issue, that the issue is the issue, right? That's the true thing that leaders really know how to do well. And that's a professional leader or a personal leader, it doesn't matter. You know how to do something well when you can separate the person from the problem. And I would also say focus on, what do you want the person to be left with after the difficult conversation? Do you want them to feel beaten up, or do you personally need to feel like, yes, I won because I said my piece? Or do you want to leave somebody feeling respected, understood, empathized, right? Again, that curiosity intellect, and often starting difficult conversations with questions and trying to get a deeper understanding is also usually a great recipe for success. So for me, it's number one, separating the person from the problem. And number two is starting difficult conversations with questions to build understanding and trust, and making sure that I try to leave the conversations with a feeling of mutual respect.
A quick pause to tell you about the Leadership Laboratory Community, a safe, empowering space where women experiment, learn, and grow together. It is warm, it is welcoming, and it will leave you with a real sense of belonging, support, and the motivation to finally go do the thing you've been holding yourself back from. That is the magic that happens inside the lab. Graduates of our programs collectively increased their compensation last year by almost $1 million, and I want you to be a part of this story too. Empowered Women Empower Women. Come test drive a session and see if this feels like the perfect fit for you. The link is in the show notes. I would love to see you there. Now back to today's episode. So powerful, Cyre. And you are dropping so many amazing sound bites. Separate the person from the problem. That's huge. And I also like how you said striking that balance between not waiting too long, yet long enough that you can process the emotion. And I talk about this a lot, especially in coaching sessions, that emotions and food function almost identically in our body. We have to digest and process them. And if we don't and they get stuck, we're uncomfortable. And it can impact mood, it can impact communication, it can impact all kinds of things. So one of the ways that I often coach on this is, there's always difficult conversations to be had, and process the emotion first. Process the emotion enough until you can frame it as a business case, just like you said, basically, like, make it objective, not subjective, remove the emotion and have it, and don't wait too long, because all that while that you're waiting, it's festering in there and it's impacting everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, well said.
It's funny because I'm guessing there's a lot of examples that we could, use here. I did something recently too, is also opening yourself up back to the curiosity quotient that you said. You might not have all the information, because I think sometimes we go into those conversations assuming that we know everything, and we rarely do. And so when you can lead with the curiosity, and I love again how you said, Cyre, like, what's the end goal? Like, if you want both to leave with the sense of respect, understanding, you got to frame the conversation accordingly and realize, like, you probably don't know every detail going into it. So great, get curious and find it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And encourage the other person to ask you some questions too, right? Like, vulnerability goes both ways. Trust is built in both directions for something to be successful. So if you start the conversation with questions, maybe before the difficult stuff, give that person also the opportunity to ask you some questions, because that gives you both the opportunity to first start building perspective, right? In difficult situations, sometimes the perspective is just a little bit off, and you need to level set. What happened? What was around it? What were things that maybe I did not see? But that takes a tremendous amount of courage. Asking questions takes courage, because y'all don't know the answers, right? As much as you can rehearse in advance and role play with a friend or by yourself, at the end of the day, you don't know the answer by asking the question. So be willing to allow that person to ask you some questions too, because you might gain some perspective before you get into the difficult conversation, right? And a difficult conversation starts to become easier and easier and easier, because you had that moment to build trust and comfort through the questions.
Definitely. It's like the bridge. You're helping to bridge the gap between. Also, listeners, there is a free resource on my website that is literally called "How to Have a Difficult Conversation." So we'll drop the little link to that in the show notes. Cyre, if you could go back and talk to the version of yourself who was earlier in her career, maybe doubting whether she had what it took, or maybe trying to figure out how to be taken seriously without losing herself, what would you tell her?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, so I would tell her so many things. I would be like, girl, get on the sofa, sit with me, and let's grab a glass of wine and let's have a conversation. But we only have but so much time. So a couple of golden nuggets, I guess. I would tell her to stop trying so hard. Stop trying so hard to earn your seat, and realize that you already deserve one, right? It may not be the golden throne that you necessarily want, but you have the seat. You belong at the table. Your job isn't to become somebody that is worthy of the seat, or that is worthy of the table, or is worthy of leadership. Your job is just simply to become more of yourself. And the world does not need another copy of someone else. So kind of tying this to some of the initial questions here is, the world needs you. It needs your perspective, your experience, your voice, your competitive advantage. So protect it. Protect that girl. Protect that young girl that had the vulnerabilities and the shyness and those fears back in the day, and acknowledge her and elevate her, raise her up. And that's what I would say. And I would also say, trust people. Because of my past, and like I said earlier, the advice that came from my mentor, I didn't trust people until much later in life, which definitely held me back personally and professionally in my marriage and in everything else. So I would also tell her it's okay to trust someone. It's okay to be hurt and to still have that reality, but it's also okay to start trying to build trust and start trying to open yourself up to others, because not everyone is going to hurt you. There are a lot of amazing people in this world that are willing to help build you up and who have also been through many difficult things themselves. So give people that opportunity to help build as well, because most people do want to make investments.
Yeah. And that is a great segue to my next question for you. You have been very strategic and intentional about surrounding yourself with those people, mentors, coaches in your corner, and there's a difference between those two. People don't fully understand. In your experience, what does a mentor give you that a coach cannot, and then what does a coach give you that a mentor can't replicate?
Oh, I always love when this comes up. Mentors, I've had many, and coaches as well, but I can't say that every coach is created equally and that every mentor is created equally. Mentors have always given me a sense of perspective and wisdom, right? Sharing their experiences. But the coaches are the ones that are like in the ring with you. The mentors would have often told me like what they would do in different situations. But the coaches always seem to have brought a very different level of curiosity, intellect. When you and I were working together, it was uncomfortable, girl. I mean, you would ask me more questions than give me answers. And those questions gave me the opportunity to also surprise myself. Like the previous question, right? What I would tell that girl is that it's already in you. And that's what the coaching did for me with you. You helped through the series of questions and through the series of exercises really pull out those things that were there. And you created a safe place for me to be able to dig and polish that diamond that was in the rough, and that we continue to do in our coaching relationship today, right? So, a mentor really offers you experience and transfers that experience, but a coach is the one that's there asking you the bold questions. And you need a balance of both. You need the person that's helping you navigate things, but you also need the coach to help you understand yourself. That's the difference.
Yeah, very, very well said, very well described. And yeah, they both serve distinct purposes and both very helpful. I mean, I have both in my life. I recommend it for everybody. And yeah, coach, if you have a coach who just gives advice, that's more of a mentor. Like well-trained coaches, like you said, ask a lot of questions because ultimately you have your best answers and we just help you navigate to get there, peel back those layers.
Yeah, yeah. And also make connections, right? Like part of our coaching was reaching within the networks. And you would ask me, okay, who's within your network that could help you develop this area now that we've explored it or exposed it, discovered it, right? And sometimes you would have someone within the coaching network that you could connect me to, or sometimes I had someone just right there, that 1 degree of separation that I could lean on. And so I love the example you gave earlier of another client that you had and you were building a relationship map, because how do you bridge those gaps? Ask for help. Right? Like that's a great way to bridge a relationship gap, is go and ask a question, especially if somebody embodies something, an attribute that you feel you need to build in yourself. Start there. That's very authentic. It's vulnerable a bit. It builds trust right off the bat. It's authentic, and you can right away bridge your own networking gaps in a very strategic way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That is a standard topic module within my coaching sessions is your stakeholder map, because this is not about doing it yourself. And simultaneously, you're building trust, you're making deposits into the relationships, you're creating visibility, all the things that are not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. But good news, like they're yours to go out and grab, and having a strategy and support to do that is incredibly helpful and effective. And you are living proof of this, Suri.
Thank you.
Well, I want to bring this home for the women who are listening right now, because I know some of them They're exactly where you were earlier in your journey. They are talented. They are capable. They know there's something more for them, and they're trying to figure out how to get there without becoming some version of themselves who they don't recognize. What would you say directly to her?
Whew. I would definitely say that confidence doesn't come first, right? Not even always. It doesn't ever come first. Courage is the thing that comes first. So try to look for that versus harping on the fact that you don't feel confident about something, right? Bring forward the ability to be curious, the ability to be vulnerable. That's the courage, right? That's the courage that you're building that brings you the success. I would say put yourself in opportunities and situations that allow you to build that courage and that confidence. You know, my mom always used to say growing up, you tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. And I love that statement. And I hated it at the time because you feel like your parents are criticizing your friends. And with my background and my mom's addiction, I was like, who are you to tell me with your friends who my friends should be? Like, look at you. But now as an adult, it is the number one thing I'm always reminding myself, because as CEO of a major global nonprofit organization, my network is huge. I meet new people every day, but you do want to be selective in those relationships as well. And who you choose to surround yourself with makes you a better person. They inspire you, they challenge you, and even not everybody's meant to be in your life forever. Some people are meant to be there just for a season. So take the opportunities to surround yourself, to raise your hand, to ask for the questions, to apply for the job that you think you may not fully qualify for, to have the difficult conversation. Trust yourself and give yourself the opportunity to trust others. And I think the biggest thing people will realize if they do that, if they even give themselves a chance to build courage, is again, it's inside of you. You just maybe haven't given yourself the chance to show it. And I hear sometimes from people that I am mentoring that, oh, my boss hasn't given me the chance for something, or they haven't asked me these things. Well, I'm going to shine that light back on you. And in what ways have you put yourself in situations that create that opportunity for you? That's your journey. That's not your boss's journey. That's not your mama's journey. That's your journey. So it's your job to just try and to be willing to, again, be vulnerable. It's one of my favorite words in this conversation and many others, but to be vulnerable and just start. It doesn't mean when you get in the room, you even have to say anything the first time or the 10th time, but just start there, right? And little by little, you'll make it there and you'll surprise yourself. But you got to start with just giving yourself that chance.
So inspiring, Suri. Is there anything that we haven't covered or anything I haven't asked you that you want to be sure to share today?
Oh, I love talking about moments that tested you in life. And on this journey to becoming CEO, there were definitely a number of tests that I was dealing with at the same time. And I'm so thankful for the coaching relationship that we had during these tumultuous times. I was navigating a very difficult and aggressive divorce, co-parenting. I didn't even know that was a thing, even though people talk about it. You know, the practice just did not exist. And I'm not going to lie to y'all and tell you that it even exists today. Co-parenting is still not a thing that we are succeeding with in my house and in my life. But at the same time, the biggest opportunity in the world was knocking on my door. The biggest opportunity that Jamie and I had been prepping for years was knocking on my door.
And life was lifing at the same time that you
exactly.
had a huge professional opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And there were opportunities even that we said no to, right? Because maybe it just wasn't the right time. And this decision was certainly not a decision I made in a bubble. And it wasn't a decision that I made alone with Jamie, but I made it with my kids as well. We decided that it was time personally and professionally to step into this thing. And even though I was still going through divorce and still am today, it's not fully done, but it was time to be able to take that seat in the next room and to give myself the opportunity to trust myself and to believe that I was going to make it and that I was willing to surround myself with new people and existing people that were very invested in helping me become that next version of myself. And another mentor, Tony Perillo, was just another one of those incredible advocates. And again, the difference between a mentor and a coach, people who are advocating for you. And sometimes that means they're advocating against you in a way, right? Where they're telling you, you're saying this, but you're doing that, and that's not making any sense, right? Again, the coaches are those people that are standing by you and asking the difficult questions and helping you reflect, because you can look in the mirror, but maybe your own mirror has a couple of blind spots. And you have to remember that the people you surround yourself with can also be an extension of that mirror and can help you see those different things. So those, throughout my career, there were things that incredibly tested me, whether it was my personal life, like divorce, co-parenting, etc., and stepping into new roles, but it was also just my internal demons and, imposter syndrome, etc., that was also testing me at the same time. And navigating through that meant leaning on my power team for support.
Yeah. Well, and I remember several times when you were like, Jamie, I had the imposter syndrome, but I did it anyhow. I did the thing anyhow. And each time you did that, your courage was like, yeah, well done, Cyre. And boom, now you just scored some confidence points. And so now you can do the bigger thing next time.
Yeah. And I will never forget this Jamie saying that I love so much. Now to flip the sayings on you.
Okay.
Fake it till you make it, or rehearse till it's verse. Goodness gracious. You were the only person that I've ever heard say that in my life. And it was very transformational. And that fake it till you make it and kind of that implying of dishonesty just never sat well with me after that conversation we had. And the rehearse till it's verse gave me so much courage, because I was like, you know what? I'm scared of that room, but I'm going to go sit in it anyway. And maybe I'll say something, maybe I won't. But it's rehearsing, because I get to be in the room. I'll be able to just practice sitting on that seat next to that person, or I'll be able to practice saying something because I think I have something to add. Or maybe I'll simply practice saying, I don't understand what's happening in this room. Can you help me understand? Right? Like there was just so many opportunities for rehearse till it's verse versus faking it till you make it.
It makes my heart smile to hear you say that, Cyre, and apply it and use it. Yeah, fake it till you make it has always gotten under my skin, because there's an implication that someone is fraudulent or faking it or doesn't belong where they are, and that's not true at all. But when you welcome in the mindset instead, I'm just going to rehearse till it's verse, it takes off the pressure. And to your point earlier, like this, we don't ever reach this point of perfection. This is all about progress, and so it's giving yourself permission to do that. Cyre, you are such an inspiration, not just to iMasons and the women in the organization, but also in the industry. Like, I am so excited that you are in this role and that your influence is already spreading far and wide. Cyre, tell me more about the CEO role itself. What are you doing with iMasons today, and what's your vision for the company?
Absolutely. So I was actually a volunteer for this organization for about 4 years before I became the CEO. I was the relationship liaison between Schneider Electric, my previous company, who is still an very active and amazing partner for infrastructure masons today. So my vision as someone who came up through the ranks and who's been on the volunteer side and now on the leadership side is we've done an amazing job in this company and in this industry overall with talking internally and really doing great things to build opportunities for activities that enabled understanding, that enabled us to identify trends and focus points. But now it's that time where we really need to translate actions to outcomes. We really need to start demonstrating an acceleration towards tangible results. And I don't think anybody can turn on the news or read a newspaper today and not hear about digital infrastructure and data centers. So what's so exciting about my organization is while the industry is at an inflection point, so is infrastructure masons. Whether it's refocusing on our initiatives to be more pointed and specific, or whether it's implementing governing bodies and steering committees that are going to help us accelerate that path to outcomes, and whether it's starting to really deliver the community partnership and those relationships we need to build, not just within the industry, but outside of the industry, because this infrastructure is being built for people. It is all for everyone else. And the people that are part of this ecosystem are really truly invested and motivated for that purpose. It is all to level the playing field, to create equal opportunity for everyone to have the advancement that digital infrastructure creates, the opportunities to access information real time, to connect with people across the globe, to speed up your path to starting your small business, because that's what digital infrastructure enables, to create resources like the one we're building today that many people around the world would be able to access and learn from. That's what digital infrastructure is about, is really empowerment and enablement for everyone. So iMasons, being at that inflection point, being at that transformation point as well, my focus is all about delivering results. It's all about harnessing the power of our incredible ecosystem of partners today to deliver that tangible impact that can be felt across dining tables at dinner time, that can be felt across business rooms, conference rooms, et cetera, and that can continue to build that future that enables a better digital future for everyone else.
Well, I know it is a big topic. It is a complex issue, and it is fantastic to have you in one of the leadership seats driving the solutions and the outcomes that are going to be a positive solution for everybody.
Thanks, Jamie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, listeners and lab cats, when you do this work, when you develop your EQ and your CQ, when you learn to lead as yourself instead of as a performance of yourself, when you get clear on your voice and stop waiting for permission to use it, something shifts. You stop reacting to your career and you start leading it. You stop waiting for your boss and you engage in the conversation. You walk into rooms differently. You have that hard conversation instead of rehearsing it over and over again and never delivering it. That is what Cyre has built. That's what she's given us examples of. And if you're sitting here thinking, yeah, I want that. I want to know how to be direct without being dismissed. I want to show up as myself and be taken seriously. I want you to know that the Leadership Laboratory community, it was built for you to do just that. Year to date, we are averaging one promotion every other week. But I got to be honest, I want that number to climb. And I would love for you, the listener, to be a part of that growth. So come take a tour of the lab, see if it feels like home. The link is in the show notes. And in the meantime, Cyre, thank you again so much. This conversation was everything I knew it would be and more. And I'm so proud of you and so grateful to spend this time with you here today.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Really, really appreciate the opportunity.
We may just have to do this again. Part 2 of our conversation. Until next time, if you are loving the show, it would mean the world to me if you left a 5-star review wherever you listen. It takes 30 seconds and it helps more women find the show. Keep experimenting, keep growing, and focus on progress over perfection.